George Washington Carver. A ruined land. George Washington Carver was shocked by what he saw from the window of the train. It was 1896. The family lived in crumbling shacks with cotton planted all the way up to the porch. The Alabama farmland was eroded and cracked. The cotton plants were as skinny and unhealthy as the children. During the Civil War, many of the old plantations of the South had been destroyed. More than 600,000 people had died during the fighting, leaving farms abandoned or not cared for. More than 4 million slaves had been freed, but the most had no education and few skills to make a life for themselves. 30 years after the war, many of the freed slaves could barely feed their families. Professor Carver had been given up a good job teaching at an Iowa college to come to Alabama to help struggling farmers. He would help them by teaching that too much of a good thing can become a bad thing. What was ruining their farms was too much cotton. Born a slave, George was born in Missouri in 1864. During the Civil War, his mother was a slave, so George was born a slave too. When George was a baby, night riders stole him and his mother, Moses and Susan Carver. The couple who owned them sent a man to find them. He found George, but his mother was never seen again. When the Civil War ended in 1865, George and his older brother Jim were freed. The Carver gave the orphaned boys a home. Jim helped Moses in the fields, but George was often sick and stayed at home to help Susan. She told him to read, write, and sew, but George liked best to garden and explore nature. Learning on his own, George taught himself about the local plants and animals, but he wanted to go to school to learn even more. Many schools at that time were segregated, which meant that white and black students could not attend the same school. The local school did not allow black students, so when George was 12, he left home to go to school. He lived with another couple, the Watkins, and worked for his meals. In June, at 13, he moved to Kansas. George worked for several families in Kansas until he graduated from high school. He received a scholarship to attend a Kansas college. Yet, when George got to the college, he was not allowed to stay because the college did not accept black students. George was unhappy, but he did not give up learning. He farmed and taught himself to paint. His friends encouraged him to try a different college. He went to the Simpson College in Iowa to study art, and this time, the college let him stay. George was happy at Simpson College, but he believed that he could help others more by studying agriculture, the science of farming. He moved to Iowa State Agriculture College and became the first black graduate there as well as the first black professor. Making a difference. In 1896, when Professor Carver arrived in Alabama, he quickly realized what was wrong with the cotton crop. Years of growing only cotton had worn out the soil. The farmers barely made enough money to buy food, so there was no money to buy fertilizer. Each year the crops were smaller, and the farmers were poor. Professor Carver taught the farmers that dead leaves and swamp muck could be added to the soil like fertilizer but free. Planting sweet potatoes, peas, or peanuts in the fields after the cotton was picked also helped the soil. These crops put nitrogen, an important nutrient that the cotton crop used up back in the soil. What's more, these new crops were foods that the farmers could eat. Carver sent out information about how to grow them and included recipes to tasty new dishes. Now, farmers can spend less money buying food from stores. Still, farmers needed a way to sell these new crops. So Professor Carver became an inventor. He developed more than 100 ways to use sweet potatoes and 300 ways to use peanuts. Ideas are free. By 1921, people were listening to Carver's ideas. He was asked to speak before members of the U.S. Congress. Some of the members from the South, who were shocked to see a black man speaking to Congress, laughed and made fun of him. Still, he had been given 10 minutes to talk, and he made the most of them. Carver began to talk about all the things that could be made with the tiny peanut. The man fell silent. When his 10 minutes were up, they gave him more time. In the end, Congress passed a law to help U.S. peanut farmers. Over the years, Carver became as famous as many rock stars today. Crowds gathered to hear the famed scientist speak. The inventor, Thomas Edison, offered him a high-paying job in his lab, but Carver didn't want it. He wanted to help people more than he wanted to make money. He believed that ideas were free, so they should be freely given and fair to farmers. Carver spent 47 years helping poor farmers. There was a limit, though, to what one man and his science could do. He could not change the unfair condition that kept many farmers in the South poor. Many were sharecroppers who could not afford to buy land. Sharecroppers grew cotton on someone else's land. Many of those who owned land in the South treated their tenants by lending them money to buy supplies at high interest rates. The farmer's share of the crops went to pay the landowner, so the farmer was left with nothing. Other farmers rented land. If a farmer worked hard to improve the land, the landowner could raise the rent. The farmer had to pay more or move. A lasting legacy. Other scientists during Carver's time invented ways to use oil to make fuel. In the lasers and the plastics, Carver realized that the oil was a resource that would someday be used up. He experiments with the fuel made from plants. He encouraged farmers to use natural fertilizers instead of expensive and safe chemicals that polluted the land and water. He taught recycling, telling his students save everything from what you have to make what you want. George Washington Carver believed that people should treat each other with respect. He won the respect of a nation at a time when few black people got much respect at all. Carver also believed that people should respect and care for the earth. If they did, nature would provide the things they needed. Many years later, we are discovering that he was right.